But that being said, I'm going to now talk about psychedelic drugs in, when it comes to increasing your level of consciousness and your chakras in particular. I have, uh, I wouldn't say I have a lot of experience with psychedelics, but I have enough, as I have tried high levels of both mushrooms and LSD, peyote and cannabis, obviously. Uh, and mushrooms I tried when I was in my early 20s. That's what it was, like the initiation into the fact that something else was possible, that the reality I thought I was in was not really what I thought it was. And I was the kind of person who had to read everything I could before I even tried anything. So I spent like maybe 6 months reading on Shumeri.org and these kind of drugs information sites before I tried anything. Even cannabis, I had to read a lot, trip reports and all sorts of stuff before I actually did it. But for cannabis, marijuana, for me it's a good idea to try it at least a few times until it works. The first time I tried it didn't really have an effect, so I had to try it again, then it worked. Because what cannabis does to your brain is interesting, because it puts up like stoppers you have like, your brain has like a default pathways, that the neurons will fire. And that this is your basic, way of thinking and view of life. But what cannabis can do, or will do, it will put sort of blockages in the default pathways of the brain. So the neuron signals have to take different routes, which sort of forces you to completely see things differently. So I'm not saying that cannabis is a solution to get higher consciousness or anything like that. I don't think you can actually increase your level of consciousness that much by smoking cannabis or anything like that. But if you never tried it or never done anything like psychedelic, it might be a good idea to use it as a way to shake up your system a little bit and force you into thinking and seeing things from a new perspective. And it also puts you into touch with the blueprint reality of your life, and you can heal. If you have issues going on that you're sort of semi-conscious of, that you have simmering in your system and you don't know how to deal with, and if you smoke or ingest cannabis or get high from that drug, you can actually use it to heal. I have healed issues in cannabis highs. So if you use it that way, you can actually, it can be a shortcut to actually dealing with stuff, but you have to be ready for actually dealing with it then. When it comes up, that many people who get problems with cannabis, or these people have like serious issues that they don't know how to deal with because they've never dealt with anything before. And when cannabis is smoked, it comes up and they get into a psychosis kind of situation. So it's definitely a good idea to have some experience with dealing with issues from before you smoke. Because when you're in the high, it can be kind of scary to face stuff if you have no experience of doing it. But definitely it's possible to heal issues using cannabis as a tool. And it's, if you feel stuck, it's a good way to force your brain to take different pathways and to see things from new perspectives. And when it comes to mushrooms, that doesn't really matter if you take mushrooms, LSD. The big difference is that mushrooms, they only last for like 6 hours or something, but LSD can last for up to 12 hours. So, and obviously mushrooms are more earth-based. It's what I say. Mushrooms are more like the spirit of the earth, while LSD is more like a cosmic thing. But LSD is very clean, it's such a small dose you need, and you don't even need to trip to actually benefit from LSD. And also the good news about LSD is that there are labs that make variants of LSD that are actually legal to sell or buy, because they're not really, they just change the form, the molecular structure a little bit, to add some kind of molecule onto the LSD molecule. And this molecule does nothing, it just goes away. When you ingest the LSD, the molecule, the extra molecule or whatever, it just disappears, and it breaks down to regular LSD really quickly. So it works the same as normal LSD would. But it's legal because they have to add all the different formulas to the drug list to make it illegal. And that's a long process, and the labs keep coming up with new variations. So you can find legal LSD, at least. I'm not saying that the customs will not stop it if they discover it in the mail, but you can't really get in legal trouble as far as I know. You have to do your own research, but there are ways to get legal LSD these days. If you search online, you just have to do a proper research. I cannot recommend any specific, but I know friends who do this, and there are ways to get it. You can just order it in the mail, and it's just a small paper tab, so it's can easily be hidden in a mail, which is hard to discover, and it's completely odorless and has no taste or anything like that, so even the dogs cannot smell it. So, but up to you. But that's just, I'm saying that's how you can get it. But the good thing about LSD is that you can take microdoses, and the microdose will benefit. They have done research on this. A microdose is basically like 10 micrograms. It's less. It's right below the threshold of actually feeling any kind of high or experience. So people do this before they go to work. They take it it's like a help to get a little bit more energy and more creative, but it's so subtle that you don't even notice it. So you can go about your day and still function normally. I've tried that too. It works. Although my dose was just a little bit too high, so I felt a little bit. I could still do my job and everything, no problem, but I still felt there was something going on. So I guess it was a little bit too high to call it a microdose, but it was an attempt to microdose at least. And the best way to microdose is if you know the strength of your LSD, you put it into a 100 milliliter of water, and then you dissolve it, and then you can just do the math of how much you need to take of the water to get, for example, 10 micrograms worth of LSD, because it can last for months. If you put it in water and put it in the fridge, it can last for many months, and before it starts to lose strength. But then you have to know the strength of the tab from before, which can be hard if you buy from the black market or the illegal market. But I just calibrate how much each tab. If I buy it, I calibrate with the dosing rods, so I get an answer on the strength of each tab, which has seemed to work out really well until now. So most of the time I just take microdoses, and just go. I want to have a relaxing day. I take a small dose. Not even tripping, but it just flows through your whole nervous system, and feels like it feels like it's really good for the nervous system to take smaller doses. And what it's proven to do is that it will have an effect in the frontal cortex of your brain, especially, and it will make sure that the two hemispheres of the brain get much more talking to each other. Like it will facilitate much more communication between the two hemispheres of the brain, and especially in the frontal cortex. And this obviously is a good thing, because you want the brains to be more connected. As that is you know, good for the development of your nervous system and for and possibly also for your chakras. I mean, I have not done research on this and I don't know, but intuitively it feels like doing LSD in small doses, uh, at least a few times, just to have done it, just to get that brain effect and these things. That is can be good for the nervous system and the whole energy system of your body and the chakra system. And that's just my intuitive idea about it. And also there is some science that confirms it too. You can look it up on Google. But and obviously you can also take bigger trips, but don't fall into the trap and the illusion that taking LSD or any kind of psychedelic will not really increase your level of consciousness for free, kind of. It's not like take this pill and you go from 300 to 500, on the level of consciousness scale. It's not like that. Yes, you can use it just like cannabis. You can use it to heal issues. And if you're stuck in life, you feel like you're completely stagnated for a long time and you feel stuck, then a big trip on LSD can definitely shake your system up. And that might be enough to, move you forward. And it might bring up stuff that you need to face. So definitely you can use it as a tool, but the trap is that many people seem to believe that they are already, because they get enlightened when the ego death. If you take a big enough dose, like anything above 150 micrograms or something like that, it's enough to basically give you an ego death experience. So you can sort of think, oh, okay, I know what enlightenment is. I've been enlightened, but now I'm back to normal. But it doesn't mean that you actually have increased your level of consciousness all that much in reality. You have been given a chemically induced preview, which is distorted by all the hallucinations and these things. But I mean, I'm not saying you should do anything illegal. Obviously, it's up to you. But I'm just saying my experience with these powerful medicines is that they can definitely be helpful. And if you never tried anything like that, it could be something to look into, because it will do stuff with your brain and your energy system that might benefit you. But you have to make the decision yourself, and you have to know what you're doing. You should read up on it. And obviously, the higher dose of LSD or cannabis you take, the more chances are for a bad trip, especially with LSD. So you have to be prepared to lose control, kind of, and surrender to the whole experience. But my advice would obviously be to take start with small doses. And you might even not need to take a big dose to get the actual benefits. Maybe a moderate dose would be more than enough. But if you want a real heavy trip, then that's up to you, obviously. But it doesn't mean that you will benefit more just because you take a bigger dose. Because it's been proven, even microdoses has been proven scientifically to do this stuff in the brain and in the frontal cortex and these things. We're talking about 10 micrograms, like super small doses, have been scientifically proven to alter the connections between and the communication between the hemispheres of the brain, which surely is a good thing. So, because it will force you to, every time you think, you're creating pathways in the brain, and the more you think in the same patterns, the more you reinforce a certain pathway, which becomes a certain mindset. So LSD and psychedelics definitely can help create completely new connections and shake things up and get you out of a stuck situation. And that's probably how you should use these things, and not use them as a crutch or something to give you a false sense of being higher than you actually are on the scale. But that's just my thoughts on it, and I'm experimenting with microdosing LSD right these days because I feel it's the best way to use it. It's relaxing. It's cheap. It lasts the whole day. You take it in the morning, you have it going the whole day. And I take doses that are like a little bit higher than microdose. I still feel something going on in the background because it's quite nice. And I take it maybe once a week, twice a week, because you need breaks in between because you build tolerance to it. So I'm just taking it because I got this intuitive notion that I need to work on my nervous system more because that's what lagging. I saw in my chakra profile in the last video I made that my nervous system is lagging behind a little bit, and I think the LSD might be helping to facilitate the upgrade of the actual nervous system. So I'm just taking it experimentally to see if that actually happens, and I don't think it hurts at least. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to how you can increase your own energetic system and your chakra system, and how that affects your level of consciousness. Obviously, if the more of a heart you can open, the more you will end up in the higher 500s, which is unconditional love, and from that point on, anything can happen. You need to that's like you're halfway there. It's like Bashar says, you have to meet us halfway. You have to meet your higher self, your future self halfway, and you do that by getting into the unconditional love. That's why you meet the higher self halfway, and that's when the higher self can meet you halfway and then merge together to become enlightened and get into the higher levels above 500. So it's mostly up to you to get to the 500, although you will be guided, obviously, or the higher mind will guide you all the way. But it's mostly up to you to dedicate yourself to get there. But when you get there, that's when you can get enlightened, if that's meant to happen for you. But then you meet the higher mind halfway, and what was